Friends, today we'll see the job sequencing and to sequence the jobs on two machines. The most important rule that we use the Johnson's rule. So in today's lecture, we'll see how to implement Johnson rule to sequence n jobs on two machines. Because in job sequencing, that may be for n job on three machines, n job on m machines, we need to get understood how to implement this Johnson's rule. So just we'll start the Johnson rule. So in case of Johnson rule, the first step we need to perform is prepare a table with two rows and n number of columns. Here, n number of columns are nothing but jobs, number of jobs on which you are processing. So if your program contains 5 jobs, then number of columns should be of 5. Give the first row heading as sequence and give sequence number from 1 to n in sequence heading row, and for second row give heading as jobs. So here this table I have prepared, and the first row I have to give the heading as sequence, and for second row you have to give a heading as a job. So this table indicates to process these jobs, which job should be processed first, which job should be processed second, third, fourth, in this way. This sequence number is depends upon the total number of jobs we need to assign. We need to do sequence. So these values represent the sequence in which you have to process the jobs. The second step is very important step. In second step, what you have to do? Find the minimum processing time required to process the job. So suppose this is my example in which these 5 jobs are given: A, B, C, D, E. These are the job names, and the processing time required to process the job A on machine M1. This M1 and M2 are the machine numbers or machines. To process the job A on machine M1, it requires 2 units of time. This unit might be in seconds, in minutes, in hours, in days, months. So these are some units. So we are not bothering about the units. Just you have to take into consideration the numbers. So job A requires, suppose the unit is hours, 2 hours to process this job on machine M1. After completion of this job from machine M1, this job has to process on machine M2, and for that it requires 13 hours. In this fashion, these are the processing times that are required to process these jobs on M1 and M2. So what is the case? To do the sequencing, what you have to do? You have to find out the minimum processing time required to process a job. So from these number of these matrix of processing times, we have to identify the minimum processing time. So in this given example, the minimum processing time is 2. Now see, what is condition A? If minimum processing time is for machine M1, so here the minimum processing time is 2, and which is related to machine M1. So this is condition true. Then write that job name in the leftmost empty cell. This is very important, leftmost and empty cell. So in this job sequence table, you can say the leftmost empty cell is this. So I have to write the job name in sequence first leftmost cell, that is A. Second case, if minimum processing time is for machine M2. Now see, in this case, we have to check the minimum values, minimum processing time values. So here minimum processing time is 3, which is for machine M2. So in this case, what you have to do? Write the job name in the rightmost empty cell. If the minimum processing time is for M2, then you have to write the job name to the rightmost empty cell. So this is the rightmost empty cell. So I have to write the job name. This is D in the rightmost cell. Then third one, if the minimum processing time is same for machine M1, and then check a corresponding processing time required for M2. Say in this case, the minimum processing time of jobs is a 5, and which is same for two jobs. Job A also required 5 hours, job B is also required 5 hours on machine M1. If the minimum processing time is same for machine M1, this case, then check corresponding processing time for machine M2. Now corresponding time required to complete job A for machine M2 is 13, and corresponding time required to complete job B is 7. So in that case, whose processing time on machine M2 is minimum, that job name should be in the leftmost empty cell. So in that case, though this machine M1 requires same processing time for job A and job B, in that case we have to check the processing time for machine M2, and in that case 7 is less than 30. So job B has to process first, and this processing time are equal in for machine M1. So this job B you have to write in leftmost empty cell. So you have to write job B here. Now the second case, same. If the minimum processing time is same for machine M2, in that case what you have to do? Then check corresponding processing time required for M1. See here, the minimum processing time for machine M2 is 9. And this is for job. But job B is also required 9 hours. Job B is also required 9 hours. So in that case, what you have to do? You have to check the corresponding values of processing values for another machine, that is M1. So in that case, minimum value is 11. So job D you have to first, you have to process. But where you have to what is the sequence of job D? So in that case, the job name should be in the rightmost empty cell, because we are having same processing time on machine M2. If you are doing any operation on M2, then that job you have to write at last. And in case of M1, if you are doing any operation, then that job you have to write at left. So in that case, the job D you have to write at rightmost left empty position. Next, if the minimum processing time is same for machine M1 and M2, if minimum processing time is same for machine M1 and M2, then check corresponding time required for processing on a remaining machine. See here, the minimum processing time is 9, which is for machine M1 as well as for machine M2. Job B requires 9 hours for processing on machine M2. Likewise, job D requires 9 hours to process on machine M1. So in that case, which job you have to select first? Then, if you have to check the corresponding processing time is minimum for M1, in that case, what you have to do? You have to check the corresponding processing time of that jobs. So here for B job, the processing time is 9. For D job, the processing time is 9. So in that case, what you have to do? You have to check their corresponding times. Okay, so the corresponding time here for job B is 15 and job D is 29. So if corresponding processing time is minimum for machine M1, then write job name in the rightmost cell, because actually we are comparing these 9 and these 9, and this 9 is related to M2, and we know that if any value related to M2, then that job we have to assign at last. Though we are comparing next time the corresponding values, and in corresponding values M1 is less than M2, we have to select only that job which is having minimum processing time 9. So in this case, this job B you have to write at last. Likewise, if processing time of M1 and M2 are same for different jobs, then you have to check the corresponding values. And in case of corresponding values, if corresponding value is minimum for machine M2, if corresponding processing time is minimum for machine M2, then write that job name to the leftmost empty cell. Though this value is minimum than 35, we are actually comparing the values between 9 and 9, and this 9 becomes the minimum value. because the corresponding of 9 value is 29, and in this case the corresponding value of 9 is 35, and we know 29 is less than 35, so we have to select this job, and this job 9 value is assigned for machine M1, and if something value we are assigning for machine M1 or processing time is a minimum for machine M1, then that job you have to write at left side in this fashion. Then next one, if corresponding processing times are equal, in this case, see, the minimum value is 9. Here also minimum value is 9. So we have to check the corresponding values, and corresponding values are 35 and 35. If processing times are same and their corresponding values are also same, then you have to follow first come first serve rule. FCFS means in which order the jobs have arrived, in which job comes first, that you have to process first. So in that case, job B and job D, they are having same processing time values. So as per this rule, I have to process the job B first. But where you have to place the job B? Write the job name in the leftmost cell of the row heading job if processing time on machine M1 is minimum. Now see, here the minimum processing time is 9. Here is also 9. But when FCFS first come first serve rule comes here, then we have to process job B first. But in case of job B, which value is minimum? Machine M1 value or machine M2 value? Machine M2 value is minimum. So we have to process this job at last. So here I have written over here. Okay. And if the processing time value is in vice versa, if B contains here 9 and 35, so in that case, which is minimum value? If the minimum value is for machine M1, then that job you have to process first. If minimum value is for machine M2, then that job you have to process at last. And last one, if there is the same processing time for machine M1 and M2 for same job, then two job sequences will be formed. Means what? In that case, see, what is the minimum value? 9. And this minimum value is 9 is for machine M1 as well as machine M2. So if there is a same processing time for machine M1 and M2 for same job, this is very important. For same job, if the processing time are same, then two job sequences will be formed. How? If you process this job on machine M1, then we have to place this job D to the left hand side or left empty cell. If you process this job D on machine M2, then you have to place this job D to the rightmost side. So when there are two jobs having, there are same processing time for two machines for the same job, then such about two different job sequences will get formed. So because in this case, the job D requires 9 hours on machine M1 and 9 hours on machine M2. So we are having two chances. Either you can select machine M1 for processing first or machine M2 for processing first. If you are selecting machine M1 for processing the job D, then that job D you have to write at leftmost side. And if you are selecting job D for machine M2, then you have to place job D to the rightmost empty cell. So in this fashion, you have to prepare the job sequence with the help of this Johnson's rule. This is about Johnson's rule. Now we'll see some examples based on this Johnson's rule. Thank you.